So let's talk about where we use databases and why. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind to understand what kind of problems we're trying to solve when it comes to databases, right? Why do we have them in the first place? So the question is, what do we do with databases? Can we do without them, right? So that's sort of like some of the key questions to answer. And let me say this: when I say databases, what am I talking about? So in this context, right, database equals RDBMS, basically relational, which is the key word here, relational database management system. So we're talking about relational database management system, right? That's what we're talking about. And why is relational important? Like why specifically relational? Well, this entire course is about relational databases, but let's take a step back and talk about databases in general. So the example that I used earlier about the Word document, we basically we're trying to make a distinction between what's data and what's the software that actually is used to operate on that data. So in that example, if you recall, the data is the Word document itself. It contains all the information that we want to work on. And the software that manages that data is the Microsoft Word application, right? So you use Microsoft Word application to create the document, to manipulate the document, and the data itself lives outside the Microsoft Word software in that particular set of docx files, right? So the same thing is going to apply in this particular case as well. We're looking at a database, which is basically a repository of data that you have stored, and it is being operated on by the database management system software. So that's what we talked about last time. Now, databases can come in many types of technologies, right? Different types of technological implementation, so to speak. Relational database management system is an implementation of a database technology. Is a type of database technology, and there are different implementations of it. Oracle is what we're focusing on in this particular course, but there are others like Oracle that are relational database management systems. But databases are before relational database management systems came along, or even after relational database management systems came along, the idea of storing data separate from the software that manipulates the data is not new. That's been there all the time, right? And Microsoft Word is a good example. A lot of systems use simple CSV files, right? So CSV file is basically your comma separated file, right? Then you have basically also the besides the comma separated files, you have Excel files, right? XLS files. Now, all of these files contain information, and that information can be manipulated by external applications if you want, right? So, well, Excel file is used by Microsoft Excel, but you can open Excel files in different other technologies as well to look at the data. CSV files are basically simple text files. Values are separated by commas, and they have a certain structure about them. And so you can call these files also nothing but databases. They contain data, and that data can be accessed externally from other software, from these files. So, but they're not relational in nature. It's not a relational database management system. So the question that we're asking is, what do we do with the database, right? So the first thing that first question can be basically answered more generically is that we like to see a separation between data and the software that consumes that data, right? So data is data. It can sit in its own isolated area, and then the software that needs to act on it can be separate. It can be separately installed, and it can access that data. So database is nothing but a collection of files that store nothing but data. Now, what do we do with the database? Obviously, we store data in it that comes from different locations or different applications, and there may be a structure to the data that we're storing. It may be, a free-form, unstructured data, as we call it, right? So a database is nothing but a repository that contains data. Now, the other question is, can we do without them? Well, the answer is no. You can't do without a database of some sort. Now, whether that database is very rudimentary, like having a CSV file or an Excel file or something, some other text file that contains that data, or something more sophisticated like a relational database management system. So you need some kind of a way to store the data so that when you need to get to it later, it's there for you to use. And one thing I would say at this point is that the distinction between programs and software that allows you to create data, and the data itself that gets stored in a durable way, those are two distinct activities that have to take place. Because, well, once you create the data, but if you have no way of saving it, then that data is going to be lost when that software is done executing. So it could be a program, or when you close that particular piece of software that you were using to create data, if you didn't save it, that data would be lost, right? So the data is to make the data durable so that you don't have to enter it again, you need some kind of a software that allows you to save that data in some format, and then later on, it can pull that data back into memory and show it to you so you can work on, continue where you left off. So that's basically what a database does for you. It allows you to store data in a particular format at a large scale, and then allows you to retrieve that data and do further operations on it, like looking at that data, modifying that data, and so on. And obviously creating new data. So that is the big idea behind having a database that allows you to do those specific functions at great deal of speed and accuracy. Relational databases are basically a concept in how it has a certain set of rules and how data is stored and how data is accessed. So if you understand what a database is, again, nothing but a repository of data, now you move on to the next step, which is thinking about, well, what are the different concepts around storage, around data storage, right? And we talked about a couple over here, like writing text files, CSV files, Excel files, all that contains data, Word document contains data, and so on. But relational database management system is a specific, highly scalable strategy or a concept or a subject or a topic or whatever you want to call it for managing or for storing data so that it can be managed by a set of rules that that are implemented by the relational database management system software. So I'll stop at that, and then this will become more clear as we continue to go deeper into the subject.